Hi folks. I'm going to talk today about something that I've been wanting to thinking about doing for a little while, which is basically the time-bound story of the development of my, you might say, my personal insight. And on the other hand, as many non-dual teachers say, it's not personal. It's basically, awareness seeing itself. It's called the opening. It's been called the opening of the third eye, and so on. So in any case, I think the point of this little story is that really anyone can get to this point and farther, and certainly many people have. So it's just in a way a form of encouragement, saying, look, any normal person, if they go into it, if they put their mind to it, and if they in the present look inward and look, they will see. And of course meditation practice helps, and some other practices help. But basically this kind of awareness of the nature of mind, as we say in Dzogchen, it's with all of us on and off, and it's a natural phenomenon. Some people even have spontaneous experiences of enlightenment, which unfortunately then become memories, because people hang on to them or grab onto them and don't move, don't flow with them. A couple of Roshis tell stories like that. So in any case, I'd say my looking back, it's just using memory, which is paradoxical, right? Looking back to first time maybe that something like the nature of mind, that dimension, was experienced. I might have been 6 or 7, and I had a babysitter, and I will say my home life was very chaotic and disrupted. My parents fought a lot, and they fought loudly. So, this has certainly caused a little bit of stress, you might say. So the memory is being in the babysitter's home in front of a large window. She lived near a hill in my neighborhood in Havana. And I remember having a yellow corn silk yellow blanket, and I was napping, and I woke up. I remember holding on to this blanket and looking out the window to the hill. There was maybe a burro out there, a donkey, and everything was quiet and peaceful, and the air was kind of warm. There was a breeze, and it's kind of like being in a tub with warm water. And for a long time that memory was treasured as a peaceful memory of, in a way, it's like being out of my house. It's like they say, when you stop hitting your head with a hammer, it feels so good. No, it's just a memory, I will say, because I think there's a little more understanding what that was about. I think that was nature of mind. Then forward many years, I was maybe 25, 26 when I started studying with Capital Roshi, 1971. And, well, before that I had started my, I had not started my clinical work, so I'll go back and say, first came practice of Hatha Yoga. Roshi used to recommend that people study, Zen practitioners study Aikido or Hatha Yoga, since most of Zen practice is sitting down, not moving. He thought this was a good and healthy counterbalance to that, and I totally agree that it was very beneficial. I started practicing Hatha Yoga, and I had a routine that I did daily for 3 years. And I remember after doing the routine every day, feeling this profound sense of relaxation, deep sense with no thoughts, and at that time I interpreted it as an individual sense of relaxation. And I will also say, don't confuse the nature of mind with just this deep sense of relaxation. This is what comes from shamatha as well, but it enables us to look at the nature of mind in a calm environment, in a quiet environment, and perhaps recognize that it's all the nature of awareness, the nature of presence awareness. And then we can move on to seeing that the mind in movement, in thought, it's still the nature of awareness, and then look at external appearances and realize that they all appear in the field of awareness. But this, this calmness was sort of a precursor, which I didn't know. Then, as I got into clinical practice, and that's why I say I graduated in 74, 73, actually. I was doing something called Jacobsonian relaxation. I was doing a lot of behavior therapy. And this is where you tense groups of muscles progressively and then relax them, and it leads to a pretty deep state of relaxation. And now looking back, I realize that I also entered a state of shamatha, or calm abiding, using that practice, that relaxation practice. But I didn't recognize it as something universal. I saw it as an individual level of relaxation. Then in 77, as I switched to being a student of Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, we would do what they call in the basic meditation seminars, which would be all day affairs. So we'd be meditating for about 8 hours. And at the end of those 8 hours, I would get again into this very calm, peaceful state. I didn't think much of it, didn't make much of it. Again, there was no sense of vipassana, looking inward into the mind. But again, that was a precursor. Interesting, curious things. And later, I didn't practice for a few years, but I remember one time, from a busy city life, going with my wife to a country inn. Had not been in nature for quite a while, and feeling of decompression, of spaciousness, and kind of realizing by contrast with nature that how pressured and rushed I had been in the city. Another time, again in the mountains, we had a cabin that we had rented. I was sitting by a big picture window, or really is one of those sliding doors that are glass, so it's a huge window. And it started to snow. And something about that snow, it's like time stood still, and I could see each and every snowflake, but it's almost like there was movement, but there was stillness. And that deep sense of peace, looking back now, I think it was again an experience of big mind. And then many years later, I was doing some body work with what's called the Diamond Approach. I studied with the Diamond Approach for about 3 years, and one of the things they teach is that there's a personal level that has states of essence. This is derived from the Sufi Islam tradition, and essence is there's different essences. So a couple of times while I kicked into this state of essence, the person that I was working with, and this would be every week, I would do the body work and the breath work, the person would point out, here, this is a state of being, it's not an emotion. And of course that intimate exchange, for the first time I could see being, or I could recognize being as opposed to doing. Even in feeling my emotions, I felt they were doing. And of course ordinary emotions are risings, appearance. They come, they stay for a little while in this space of awareness, and they go, unless we muck with them and then put thought after thought on them and kindle them and build them up or whatever, or push them away. But if we just let the rising be a rising in the space of awareness, the emotion would come and go, and it's an appearance. But this was again described as a state of being. So I was able to experience being, not connecting it necessarily to the nature of mind per se, but there was some suspicion, some sense. And after that I went back into Dharma practice, with studying with Soja Rinpoche's group in Boulder, with whom I practiced for about 10 years. Meditation had, you might say it had deepened, it's hard to say. Maybe you may say the obstacles had lightened. But, there was a sense of breathing, being the breathing, no object and no subject. And in that content-free awareness, there was beginning to be a sense of that this deep relaxation was possibly a phenomenon that was not just my relaxation, but there was contact with a deeper dimension. But there was no way to work with it. I wasn't seeing Soja Rinpoche very often. I was working with senior students, which was tremendous, enormous help. But you couldn't ask students about that. At least I didn't ask. Maybe I could have. But then again, a few years into that, I attended one of the seminars by Soja Rinpoche, somehow, strangely, he was silent for about 20 minutes. I've talked about this before. He started talking like sometimes you listen in his recordings, you know, he gets very quiet, very musing, very pensive. Well, he didn't talk for 20 minutes, and I've been taught to listen to talks in a meditative state. So I felt what I think he was feeling. I think it was like what they call direct transmission. I felt this peace, this quiet, this, again, it's kind of like being in a warm tub with warm water. You know, feel your body, you know, have thoughts. So I felt maybe this is a transmission, you know, obviously that's a thought, but you know, there was that sense. And I remember people later, it made me laugh because they would go, well, what did he say? Do you have anything? I don't have anything in my notes. What did Ricochet say? And it didn't quite, I don't think, get what he was doing, because at the end of the 20 minutes or so he goes, ha! Which is a typical ruse of masters to arouse, you know, stop thought and arouse attention. So in any case, you know, after that I worked with Lama Shepmet Hukham of the Awakened Heart Sangha. She was very generous with her time. The time I worked with her, I was able to have phone interviews with her, which were incredibly valuable. She gave me some practices, some Vipassana practices, and that deepened the sense. By now then I had a clear sense that this was a recognition of the nature of mind. And you know, I started the video series and so on. And recently, lately, you've seen one of my tapes where I've recommended Scott Kilby. He is what you call a non-dual teacher. He's not within the Buddhist tradition, but has authentic insight, limited as that may be. We're all human. But I've been consulting with him, and right now it's a period of you know, a fresh period of exploration and discovery, and it's very exciting in its own way. And here we are, still exploring, yet well grounded, you might say, in the ground of being. So just want to say this is nothing magical or abnormal, or you know, any normal human being just put their minds to it and listen, and this is your birthright, you might say. So with that thought, I leave you, and Tashidele.